Hello and good morning to everybody. I hope I'm live. I'm checking to see that I am live. I'm supposed to be live on Facebook and LinkedIn and, of course, YouTube. So if you're seeing me and you're hearing me, that's one of the first things I always ask. If persons are seeing me and hearing me, let me know um, so that we could chat. Let me know where you are joining me from, which platform you're joining me from, and of course, where in the world that you are joining me from as well. Right? Okay. Angelita, thank you so much. I'm live. Okay, so I'm live on LinkedIn. Let me just double check my Facebook here. Make sure that I'm live. Really excited about this conversation. Right. Okay. So I look like I'm live on my platforms. So again, good good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, depending on where you are joining me from. Angelita, thank you. Joining me from Bermuda, which is always wonderful. And hi, Marsha. Good morning. That's all my LinkedIn folks. So thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are joining me from around the world. Always excited to do lives. Um, Really excellent place to begin to interact with persons. Today's live is an interesting one. Hi, Aisha. Interesting one in that we're going to talk about um, branding, right? And specifically, I know the term, we hear the term all the time, branding and brand identity and developing a brand. But specifically, I want to talk about um, differentiation and why it is important for differentiation, why it is important that we don't just develop brands, but that we are looking for ways in to differentiate ourselves, right? So today's session again, not focusing so much on building or the steps to take to build a brand identity, but really it comes from discussions that I have with persons in leadership that are of the belief that they already have strong brands, right? They've been around for a while, and they may, their perception is that they are leaders in their space. Um, but a little bit of a pushback, and part of my discussion in this live today is to really ask and to put out there, are we really developing brands that consumers see as different from others, right? Um, do we see Apple as different to um, Samsung? Do we see Coca-Cola as different from Pepsi? Now, that idea of building a brand and differentiating yourself is really what helps your business to grow. When customers begin to see you as different, right? When customers begin to see your brand as unique and different, valuable, is when you begin to see your business grow. Not only is it beneficial in that way, but also to it also helps in terms of the messaging, in terms of what is being said to consumers, and that's why it's so important. So really today, we can have a different live about developing a brand and developing a strong brand identity, which I would love for persons to let me know if that's something that they would love to hear about and to discuss. But today, I really want to talk about why it is important to differentiate. Now, the first thing I want to, and maybe I should just give a little bit of backdrop on myself. You know, I have positioned myself in this space um, as a sales and marketing professional. And why I've kind of blended the two is because I've spent many years in a as a sales and marketing manager in a number of organizations, in three organizations where I led a sales team, right? I held that sales leadership hat. And I've also blended for a large part of my career as well, marketing. Teaching marketing in tertiary schools for the better part of, I think, about 16 plus years. I need to check it. Um, but I have positioned myself as that sort of sales and marketing professional, that sales and marketing person. Yes, they are sales professionals, trainers right here on LinkedIn. Yes, there are digital marketers, content creators as well. But I have always seen and know that there is an inherent connection between both. And in organizations, if they are not looking at developing a sales and marketing strategy, they tend to be a little lopsided, or at some point in time, there are gaps in their organization because sometimes they separate the two. The messaging is different between the two. Um, and so there needs to be that alignment between your sales and marketing. So that's one of the things that I use to differentiate myself, that I've been able to wear that umbrella. And so I understand the importance of putting those two core areas which are responsible for revenue generation in an organization. The second thing I really do for myself in terms of differentiation, which is a little bit on the softer side, and as for my personal brand, is using that tagline, the stammering communicator, which is telling my story of being a child that stammered terribly, and then ultimately getting into a profession, or a number of professions, because I teach as well, where I have to use my voice. And so the expression, the stammering communicator, is really, a little bit of an oxymoron, because you will not think of a person that stutters as a person that is a communicator. So I do get a lot of persons that ask me about it, and what does it mean, and Debbie, does it what, where did I come up with that particular concept? So building a brand identity with a focus on how am I going to set myself apart, how am I different, is extremely important, right? It is extremely important. Your brand identity is not just your logo, right? It's not just that physical aesthetic, but it is what customers believe about your brand. It is what customers are able to receive. It is what persons say about your brand when in spaces that you are not aware of, right? So it deals with, yes, the aesthetics in terms of your logo and your design and so on, but it goes much deeper into your vision and your mission, what value you offer to your customers, how you begin to interact with those customers, um, what sets you apart from every other brand out there competitive in your industry, right? So with that, I want to jump straight in to my presentation here, which looks at why, the whys, why you should really begin to develop a brand identity, but again, with the backdrop of differentiating yourself, right? Now, Building a strong brand inherently means, hey, I'm building a presence. I'm building a space where persons know who I am. And one of the greatest benefits, again, of building a strong brand identity is helping you to stand out from your competitors. Now, you need to really understand what makes you different, what sets you apart, because that helps you, as I mentioned, in your messaging and in your communication, in what your sales people are saying out on the field, what your marketing persons are doing online in the digital space, what your C-suite executives might actually be discussing and networking, amongst other C-suite executives, right? So it is important to develop a strong brand identity because it allows you to then be seen as different from your competitors. And it will be translated in a lot of the things that you do, right? Through sales and through marketing. So it really does help customers to see you as different. So whether you are in the financial space, financial advisor, marketer, HR consultant, engineer, you have to begin to think about, what do I offer my market space that is different, and how can I communicate that? And that inherently will help you to stand out among the other persons there. It's like I mentioned in terms of what makes Apple different from Samsung, or what makes Coca-Cola different um, from Pepsi. These are those tangible and intangible things is what really makes a number one and then a number two in the market space, right? The second thing is, it helps you to kind of build what you call your brand loyalty, right? Um, Building a strong identity naturally means that you are more identifiable, you are perceived as more valuable. And in this space, this marketing and digital space that we live in, consumers have a more personal, intimate, emotional connection with brands. And I do talk a lot about, um, when I give examples, I talk about Nike, and I also talk about Coca-Cola. Advertising is very aspirational in nature, right? It plays on our emotions to be better persons, right? We see athletes sometimes they portrayed in a space where they are moving towards a particular goal, and so we feel um that sort of emotional connection, and it's very aspirational in nature, right? Similar with Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has been able to, always think of the polar bears and those Christmas videos that are very nostalgic in nature. So they play again on our um, emotional, right? Emotional connection with that brand. And that is how they begin to build that customer loyalty, right? Nike and Coca-Cola. So it's important, again, you want to begin to build a tribe, you want to begin to build a community, you want to begin to have customers who are loyal to you, because they then become advocates. They then spread the word and say why your brand is so great. I'm sure you've come across persons that are, I for sure have experience with persons in my personal life and professional life that are gone home on Apple, and Apple products, and they will defend it to the end, right? And that is the type of customers that you want to build. You want to build those advocates that will continue to purchase, but not only do that, they will actually defend your brand, right? Those are the types of things that you are looking for, right? Right. The other reason why, again, and goes hand in hand and it kind of synonymous, is that once you begin to build a brand, a strong brand identity, you are able to differentiate yourself, it becomes easier. It actually becomes easier to market and advertise and to promote. It begins to have a ripple effect, and that's why I tell a lot of entrepreneurs as well to begin a level of consistency in terms of the content that you put out there, which leads to the next slide I have. But you're building this strong brand identity and the beginning to differentiate yourself and differentiate your messaging makes it easier for customers to begin to identify you. They begin to see you. They begin to say, okay, I'm seeing this individual, or I'm seeing this brand, I'm seeing this product, I'm seeing this company. I want to find out more about them. I'm seeing the work that they are doing. I'm seeing their sustainability, social responsibility. And I want to be a part of that, and I want to know more. So it actually helps, and it helps, and it creates it helps to propel your organization in a way that makes future marketing and advertising a whole lot easier, right? You want to be able to be recognized. We want to be able to walk into spaces and persons know exactly who we are and what it is we do. Why? Because it actually makes it easier to sell. Hence the reason why we talk about putting out content and all those things, right? Or I talk about putting out content on a regular basis. It is because it does the work for you as a brand, and it helps you to be, for your brand to be recognized and for your brand to be known, right? The next one, again, creating this level of consistency across all platforms. I say this as a marketer because when you are very clear on your brand identity, when you are clear on your vision and mission, when you are clear on what value you deliver to your customers, when you are clear on how your service is different from your competitors, this makes sales and marketing so much easier. And from a marketing perspective here, it means that everybody in the organization is fully aligned. It also means that as we begin to communicate across different types of platforms digitally, as well as we work offline, creating that level of consistency is easier, right? So that the messaging is now homogeneous. The messaging is razor sharp. The messaging is sniper. It's not just ad hoc and all over the place. So once you are very clear on what it is you do, it means again that your salespeople can, deliver the right message, and you are sure that they are delivering the right message and sharing the right values and so on. You are sure that your management team and your middle management is communicating that to the various teams within the organization that actually support your revenue generation, which could be your finance teams, which could be your operational teams, which at times we forget, but they at times interact with customers. And you want some consistency in the messaging and what is being delivered, right? And again, similarly, as I say here, across all platforms, your marketing teams, as they begin to deliver this message to, or deliver this message on LinkedIn or Facebook, or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, it means that there is a unified message. There is it is it is synchronized, and that again, it's not all over the place. So again, it's clear when it is delivered to the customer. It is clear the customer understands. So if they speak to someone in finance, or if they speak to somebody, a driver, right? Or they speak to the operations manager as they come to collect their goods, right? It doesn't matter who they speak to. This brand identity is clearly communicated to your customers and to your stakeholders in a consistent, clear way. It makes, again, marketing and advertising and promotion much, much easier, right? Now, with that said, as I kind of come to a close, and of course, as I tell persons, I would um, absolutely love if you let me know if this is something that you would like to hear a little bit more of in terms of now developing your brand identity. Because all we talked about here is why it's important to one, develop the brand identity, but two, with the backdrop of you wanting to differentiate, because differentiation is really where we see the growth. There are lots of marketers, as I say, lots of sales professionals. There are lots of HR consultants. There are lots of different ice cream brands, and there are lots of different tech brands. There are lots of brands in different spaces, in different industries. It's getting more and more cluttered and crowded. There are more entrepreneurs coming on. There are more persons coming on into the online space. So it is important, yes, to develop your brand, but to really have a differentiation strategy, really have that discussion in terms of what is making my business and my brand different. What value do I offer that is different from everyone else? That's all. That always has to be, that point. You always have to draw yourself back to that. What do I offer my specific clientele that is um different from everybody else? And that's what builds brand ambassadors. That is what builds persons who are advocates for your brand, because again, they see that your brand is different from everyone else. Lakeisha, I hope I pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you so much for joining the live. My next live actually is going to be somewhat similar here. I am going to be joined by a good friend and colleague of mine. We are going to talk about public relations, and how do you begin to build your brand and utilize public relations, talking about reputation. We're gonna actually have a journalist on live with us, so that won't be next week, but it will be the week after. So look out for that. And again, public relations and reputation marketing are all an important part of building your brand, building a sustainable brand, helping you to be seen in the way that you want to be seen, right? So, with that, guys, I thank you so much for joining me on this live. And feel free to put in your comments. Feel free to ask me any questions. And we will chat again soon. You guys take care. Bye bye.